We have a special report tonight on mental health among children. 1 in 10 children in Britain has a diagnosable mental health condition. For some, it will prove intolerable. The latest figures show 231 young people aged 10 to 19 killed themselves in 2015. The charity Childline says calls from young people contemplating suicide has doubled in the last 5 years to nearly 20,000. Our UK Affairs correspondent Jeremy Cook follows the stories of 2 families.
2 young lives, 2 families with difficult stories to tell.
I'm Sarah Fitcher, I'm mum to Ben and Sam, my twins.
My name is Kim and my daughter is Georgia.
Ben was a fun-loving, caring, happy-go-lucky child, fantastic sense of humour, life and soul of every party.
She was full of life. She was a great kid. She had lots of friends and she would have parties at home.
Was she happy?
She was very happy.
For Georgia, there was all the appearance of a normal, balanced life. For Ben too, no thought of how desperate things would become.
Ben went off to do his paper round. I waved him goodbye. We said we loved each other and off he went, and I didn't think anything of it. He was late, and I can't remember what attempt it was to ring his telephone. Somebody answered it that was clearly not Ben. And I was, Ben, it's me, it's Mum. And they kept saying, who is it? And I was like, it's Mum, that's Ben's phone. Why have you got Ben's phone?
She's the first child from our family to actually go to university. And everything seemed to be going so well. And I was relaxed thinking, she's there, she's doing it. She's doing the dream. And she's, you know, perfectly happy until I had a phone call.
The 2 officers turned up on the door and I knew straight away that he wasn't alive.
What had happened, sir?
We were told that he had died on the motorway, and that was the day our lives changed forever.
Teenage suicides are rising. This week, the government said it wants to reduce the stigma of mental health problems, get more support into schools to young people who desperately need it.
And I just got in the car and I drove up there and I just felt sick. The whole journey I felt sick. I didn't know what was going on, what had happened. I just wanted to see my daughter.
You always over-worry.
Georgia survived. She'd managed to call the Samaritans for help. Her life saved, but painful memories.
I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't want to feel the hurt and the pain that nobody else could see. And that's when I thought that it would all stop, it would be over, if I managed to take my own life.
Did you try to take your own life, Georgia?
Yes, I did.
For Georgia and her mum, there is now plenty to look forward to. She has a home, a career, a future.
That was a really difficult time in my life. I've learnt so much from it and it's made me the person I am today, but I am so grateful to be here on this land having a really good time.
But for Ben's family, it's all about memories and unanswerable questions for a 14-year-old who took his own life without warning.
Why did you not reach out to us? Sorry. Just definitely why. And that I love you. Sorry. It's just not knowing. That's the hardest part. And definitely why.
Ben's mum knows the pain of losing a child. Now she's working with the Papyrus charity to tell his story, raise awareness, work to prevent more young lives being lost to suicide. Jeremy Cook, BBC News.
Well, details of organisations providing support for adults and children in distress or with mental health problems are available at bbc.co.uk Action Line, or you can call 0800 066 066 at any time to hear recorded information. The number of people sleeping rough in England has been steadily rising in the last few years. And according to analysis given to the BBC, they are increasingly likely to be suffering with mental health problems. 6 years ago, a third of people sleeping rough on the streets of London were identified as in need of psychiatric support. But this year, that figure had jumped to almost half. In the first of two reports, our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan on a project in East London that aims to help those clinging to the margins of society.
It is a 21st century metropolis, a magnet for the mega-rich and home to some of the most marginalised people in our country.
You in there? Is the outrage? Hello?
A young man lives in here. Isolated, uncooperative, the team suspect he has psychiatric problems.
Just Fatma and Noah. Hello?
3 times a week they visit. Tonight he refuses to talk.
Is it frustrating?
It is. It is, but you have to be patient.
This team is highly unusual. Mental health nurse Fatima Taylor, alongside outreach workers from the homeless charity Thames Reach, paid for by the local council, Tower Hamlets. Over 3 months we followed them as they travelled to the very edges of society, seeking out the most vulnerable. Tonight, a long-term rough sleeper is unwell and has called for help. As a city walks by oblivious, Fatima approaches the woman.
What is it? Don't cry.
Miss, I gotta go.
Please, only 2 minutes.
I got it.
She suffers from a type of schizophrenia, wants her medication, but the man with her tries to pull her away.
She can give me meds.
Yeah.
Wait.
Please. Look. Don't do this, please. Don't do this.
The woman fears she'll have no bed tonight if the man disappears.
I said I have nowhere to sleep. You want me to?
I got somewhere. I could put you somewhere to sleep tonight.
Can I have some medication? I got to play with my friend.
Yeah. Put in your mouth. Swallow it. Yeah?
A scuffle, a swallow, and Fatima delivers the medication. It'll calm the woman within the hour.
So she had to give me that bear hug to take her medication. So I managed to get her medication in her.
Does it upset you, that kind of confrontation?
Extremely upsetting. It's a vulnerable situation for me as well. But then you have to do what you need to do to help people like this.
We move on. The outreach team have spotted a new rough sleeper.
Hello, we're from the street outreach team. Are you alright?
His hidden shelter, far from anyone else, a key indicator of ill health.
You see him on the ledge there, uncovered up.
Where is he?
Look on the ledge.
Oh, wow.
That is a picture of despair.
Psychiatric problems are both a cause and consequence of homelessness.
So what you do is you help the most marginalised of the marginalised.
Yes. To get them to be noticed that they are alive and they really need services. I get a lot of doors closed. People on the top say it's a lifestyle choice, that people make choices to sleep out here. And this is not true at all.
Weeks later, Fatima and her colleagues return to the man in the tent. They're not welcome.
I don't want your help. I don't have to tell you anything. I don't have to justify myself to you or anyone else.
They persist. Eventually he comes out. But he's adamant he doesn't want any support.
But if you don't trust somebody, this might be it.
What's wrong with that though? All right. Say for example I just stay for the next 10 years or so. So what? If I'm alive, I'm doing my own thing, I'm not bothering anyone, I'm not harming anyone, I've committed a crime, what's the problem?
With that, he returns to his tent. The outreach team leave, relieved he has at least spoken to them. A small victory in a deepening crisis. Michael Buchanan, BBC News, East London.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC's News at 6. There's been a steep increase in the number of people arriving at accident and emergency departments in England with mental health issues. putting more pressure on a system already under strain. Now, their latest official figures analysed for the BBC show that last year there were over 165,000 psychiatric attendances at A&E. That's a rise of 47% over the last 4 years. Now, that includes a rise of 89% in the number of children and young people under 18 attending A&E. Emergency doctors describe the figures as the tip of the iceberg. Our social affairs correspondent Alison Holt reports now from Birmingham.
It's another day of unrelenting demand in the emergency department of Birmingham's Queen Elizabeth Hospital.
Have any movement in terms of beds?
Patients are lining up on trolleys in the corridor, and the waiting room is packed.
Customer, counter 1, please.
She's taken an overdose of some prescribed medication.
The psychiatric team based in the department is dealing with a number of people who've tried to take their own lives.
She had a follow-on plan. She had taken an overdose the last time.
Among them, a woman in her early 20s. Doctors have dealt with the physical effects of the overdose, but the root cause is her history of mental health problems.
What's happened? I mean, what's brought you into A&E today?
I took an overdose. I went up to the train track.
She is one of a rapidly increasing number of patients arriving at A&Es like this with psychiatric difficulties. Many are young.
The voices are getting more intense, wanting to harm myself. It's not attempts, it's actually trying to do it, not just doing it as a cry for help.
Is this the worst that you've ever felt?
I've never been this bad before. I'm scared.
In a busy A&E, even finding a room for this conversation was a struggle. Now this isn't the right place for her, but she needs to be monitored.
She actually has suicide intent, you know, although if we were to discharge her from here, she would likely kind of like go out there and try and do something even riskier.
Was there any particular trigger where you took the tablets?
At this hospital, they see more than 100 people a week facing a psychiatric crisis. And the Mental Health Trust has set up a quiet unit nearby to assess people away from the pressure. Its staff then search for the psychiatric beds or community support needed.
OK, we need to admit this lady. I'm trying to act upon this as a matter of urgency for this lad because he doesn't sound well at all. Nobody in a mental health crisis should be in accident and emergency unless they've got a physical health need. Our A&Es, what I see, they are very, very busy, overstimulated places, you know, and somebody in the mental health with a mental health issue, it's just not conducive at all to them to be in that environment.
That's why in Birmingham they've set up this street triage team to intervene before people reach the emergency department.
Patient hearing voices stating going to kill someone.
With a police officer, paramedic and psychiatric nurse on board, they respond to 999 calls where there are mental health concerns.
I'm a nurse, my name's Lisa, okay, and we're the triage team.
Already this evening, the man they're visiting has called for an ambulance several times. His physical health is checked, they listen to and assess him.
You're telling me that there was these negative voices in your head at the moment?
I think like there's someone controlling me. It's kind of like I'm some kind of machine.
After half an hour, it's agreed rather than going to A&E, he'll keep a community appointment in the morning. Has it helped, having the visit?
I think the first step is me asking for help, as well as being assured that I will get the help.
Over the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's been going to A&E quite a lot. I think he's had 6 admissions through A&E. So we've come out tonight to try and prevent that cycle.
Night and day, the street triage team is in demand. But here they believe it's making a difference in getting people the right help.
We managed to reduce the numbers of attendants to the A&E, but what you get high quality. You get mental health, police forces and paramedics working in collaboration together to look after one single patient.
For many, A&E will remain the first place they turn to. The challenge is to help people who are vulnerable before they reach a crisis.
They are among the most vulnerable of mental health patients, people whose Problems are so serious that they're detained in hospital or sectioned under the Mental Health Act. Their numbers are up by 40% in the last decade. Experts say patients are often discharged too early and without enough help at home, leading to many of them being resectioned time and time again. Our Disability News correspondent Nikki Fox reports on the work of one woman who tries to help those struggling to cope.
I'm going out to see a client now who called me because she's feeling very much at risk. I'm worried about her tonight. I don't think she sounds safe tonight.
Joy's rushing to get to a 29-year-old woman who's hurt herself.
Are you able to come down and let us in?
The young woman, who we're calling Sarah to protect her identity, has called Joy for help. Grieving the loss of her friend, Sarah is struggling to cope and has self-harmed. Something she's been doing since she was 9 years old.
Can I look at your arm? Because it just...
It's fine.
I do think we need to get you medical help, as well as other help.
Like many others, Sarah has been repeatedly sectioned, spending most of her life in and out of hospital, but time and time again she's been discharged too early.
What kind of care are you getting at the moment from mental health services?
Once a fortnight.
Sarah has known Joy for a few years now. They met when she contacted the charity Joy set up to support people at risk of suicide.
Together NHS Foundation Trust.
Sarah is known to mental health services and has been given the emergency number of the local NHS crisis team. It's supposed to be a 24-hour service.
I'm slightly puzzled because they said they're closing, but that's kind of thrown me because they're open 24 hours a day in theory. So.
Paramedics arrive and eventually Sarah goes to hospital where they treat her physical wounds. Joy stayed with Sarah until the early hours of the morning. But it's a new day.
Hello, suicide crisis.
And she's already taken more calls.
Tell me where you are. Either I can get to you or you can come to us.
The support Joy provides is essential for the hundreds that contact her charity. These are some of the people who aren't receiving the right kind of help from their local services. The Department of Health says it's investing £400 million over the next 4 years to improve support for those who need it most. And some psychiatrists say this is crucial. They've seen for themselves how patients are being let down by their mental health services.
I think a lot of people would describe their experience as negative. I think people are often looking for someone to be alongside them, and instead they find themselves left in despair with a life that's dominated by their difficulties with mental health.
In just 24 hours, Sarah self-harmed a second time. She was taken back to hospital, but with no treatment for her mental health, she's back where she started.
What, do you feel let down?
Not me let down, my family. Because if I die, I don't care, but it's like they're letting my family down. Because what have they done wrong?
Joy believes that Sarah will one day be able to see a future for herself with the right support. The Together Trust responsible for Sarah's care says the health of those they support is their prime concern. However, they recognise there are times when they don't get it right.
We say, please, when you're at the point of suicide, ask for help. And you've got someone here asking very clearly for help and being told no. I don't think anyone is beyond help. It's just that they have not found the right kind of help for them.
Funding for many mental health services in England has been cut, despite an NHS order that spending be increased. The research organisation The King's Fund says 40% of mental health trusts had their budgets cut last year, and that 6 trusts out of 58 have had their funding cut for 3 years in a row. One of those is the Norfolk and Suffolk Foundation Trust, who've admitted responsibility for the death of a schizophrenic patient. Neil Jewell died 3 years ago. Our health correspondent, Sophie Hutchinson, has been speaking to his family.
He was, I suppose, his most happy and relaxed when he was up, with a family. That's what he just wanted to be part of a family, really. And it's very sad to think that this awful illness that he had took that happiness away from him.
Christine's brother Neil Jewell struggled with schizophrenia, but he died after what his family say was a catalogue of failings in the local mental health services, both in the community and in hospital.
It was a complete nightmare what happened to him. It should never have happened. And then you start getting angry. And you think, well, these are people's lives. I mean, my brother was just left to cope on his own. And the whole point of this, going through this pain, is to make sure Neil's voice is heard through this, and for people to understand that mental health issues don't just affect people like my brother. Anybody in society, no matter who you are, can suffer with, at various times in their life with mental health issues.
Mental health workers failed to ensure Neil Jewell had enough medication. They failed to find him a safe hospital bed. He ended up being restrained by police, driven 75 miles while psychotic, before he had a heart attack and died. Cuts don't always coincide with poor treatment like that suffered by Neil Jewell, but the Norfolk and Suffolk Mental Health Trust, which treated him, is one of a handful to have its budgets cut for 3 years in a row. And a leading research organisation says last year 40% of mental health trusts in England had their budgets cut again.
Cutting mental health services is just as risky as cutting our acute hospital services. We're talking here about people in crisis who need expert care in a timely way, and often that is not being provided at the moment. That's bad for patients and their families. It's also a risk to communities when you've got people who are severely ill who aren't able to access the right care.
But last year, for the first time, NHS commissioners in England were instructed to increase money for mental health. NHS England says overall spending did go up. So why did so many mental health trusts who provide the bulk of the care see their funding cut?
There's real pressure on acute trusts, that's the big hospitals, but there's real pressure on mental health. So commissioners are working hard to make sure that they deliver mental health care for their populations. There are some tough choices to make, but we are committed to making sure that people with mental health are treated as well as anybody else in this population.
Yeah, do you remember when we used to bring Neil over here for walks?
The trust in charge of Neil Jewell's care in Norfolk and Suffolk has expressed its deepest sympathy to his family. Inspectors have said it should no longer be classified as a failing trust, despite ongoing concerns about high rates of deaths there.
No, he loved his dogs.
Yeah.
You can't mess about with people's lives, people that haven't got the ability to stand up and speak for themselves. This is people's lives, and how quickly they can be snuffed out, just like that.
Thousands of school children across the UK have been taking part in the BBC's annual School Report Newsday. This year, many of their stories have been tackling the issue of young people's mental health. One pupil, 16-year-old Grace, wrote into School Report with her story. She was bullied for 9 years, which led to anxiety, depression, and eventually suicidal thoughts. Our correspondent Elaine Dunkley went to meet her.
I felt like I was in a rabbit hole. And I felt like a prisoner in my own body. When you feel so alone, you feel like no one's going to listen to you and no one's going to believe you.
How intense was the bullying?
It was every day, every second of every day. From the minute I walked into the classroom to the minute I left. I was beat up quite a few times in the space of a month. I'd come home with like black eyes and things like that from what people had like done to me at school.
This is a story about a girl called Grace. Bullying from an early age has had a devastating impact on her mental health. It started at the age of 7 and got worse.
At 8 I started like overeating through stress and I felt like that was my only escape. By 9 I'd started calorie counting everything that I was eating because of my weight. Quite frankly, the bullying ruled my life.
What impact did the bullying have on your mental health?
It had a very large impact on me. And it got to the point where I was literally at breaking point. I would have nightmare after nightmare after nightmare about what was going on like in the day and things like that, and I used to scream in my sleep to try and get away from it. At 11, I was about to start high school and I was really excited about it, but
In the summer before high school, I started being cyberbullied by one of my closest friends.
At 13, Grace wanted to take her own life. She made a video saying goodbye to her family. Luckily, Grace's mum Sarah found it before it was too late.
Crucified me. Only by default the video was found, and when I watched it, I just sobbed. And then I felt angry that I didn't know that she'd made it. I didn't know she was feeling suicidal. But that's got to be one of the lowest moments, because I didn't know what to do. The signposting is not there. The services are not there. There needs to be far more services out there working with young people, doing direct work with young people. Young people's mental health needs to change.
Grace did eventually get help, and now she mentors others who have been bullied.
I never thought that I'd be as confident as I am, or have like the bravery that I have today to go up to people that I don't know and like talk to them. I don't want the next generation of kids to go through what I've been through. I want to be the person that can help young people understand that you aren't actually alone.